How do you explain, what is your doctrine on the origin of the Caucasian race?
Well, the Caucasian race came about, they're called white people, and they were white people. It was made that Caucasian is a name given to the quality of the man, means originally bone and stale face. The person have a stale color, and his bones are weak, and the color Caucasian. But actually, he was made white. This was brought about, we would consider just recently, to talking into billions and trillions of years. The Caucasian race thereafter is just here of today almost. That took place 6,000 years ago.
And a guess, and maybe he could help me to convey a message to you. He's my friend. I like him a lot, and I'm going to tell you why I brought him in and why I think he's important to the future of you learning about the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And his name is Yosef bin Asiel Israel. Salam alaikum.
In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, who appeared in the person of Master Fard Muhammad, to whom righteous and holy praise is forever due, we thank that great God for his coming to the wilderness of North America to raise up amongst us the first begotten from the dead, that special soul. I speak none other than the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. In those holy and righteous names, I greet you in the words of peace. Assalamu alaikum. We'll be right back after these quick commercials. Looking for something that feels good, looks great, and stands the test of time? Well, we have it for you. Black Royalty is our athleisure line that is made from the finest bamboo and cotton blend. We have designed high quality tracksuit and t-shirts in multiple colors that provide you the most comfort when you need it most. Whether you're in the gym or running errands or just lounging around with loved ones, you need to be in the best quality clothing as possible. We have constructed a high quality clothing line that does not break the bank, and we beat out all of our competitors on price. So please, if you're interested in being comfortable, not just in the gym, but when you're running around and doing errands, please visit blackroyaltywear.com. Also, you can find us on Instagram at Black Royalty. And if you have any questions or comments about our brand and how you can help participate, you can find us at blackroyaltywear@gmail.com. We'll be quick to answer your questions, and with our responses, we will be very thorough. So also, like I said, Black Royalty is for you because it was made by you with the intentions of serving you. So leave all those other clothing lines behind and get on what makes sense, something that's going to stand the test of time, because black don't crack. Looking to get the courage to get up and get out and do something this summer, whether it's just getting overall healthier state or lose a couple pounds for that beach body? Well, we got the answer for you. Summer Fitness Boot Camp, held every Saturday from June 1st to August 10th from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. on 39th and Cottage Grove at the football field. For a cost of $10, we put you through a rigorous training of functional and strength and endurance using only your body weight to get into the health that you need to sustain yourself long term. So if you're interested in getting your body more active and being a healthier version of yourself, come on out. Contact 312-646-8449 or 312-391-5234. Ask for Corey or Prince Yosef. Now this is the opportunity of a lifetime where you get expertise training to get in the shape that you deserve, not just need. Once again, every Saturday from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. for only a cost of $10 from the weeks of June 1st to August 10th, 2019. Come out to 39th and Cottage Grove, the football field, where you can get into a better version of yourself. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back again to another installment of Know Thyself Radio Show, where we make it our business, our duty, our responsibility to give you nothing but the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And with that being said, this episode is a continuation of last week's, where I spent a significant time talking about the evils of this system and of the white race, and how we continuously fall victim to their deception and their outright hatred of us. It's evident, as I spoke of last week, when I made mention to the mass shooting, the assault, the murder at the Garlic Festival at the hand of a white supremacist. And seemingly 3-4 days later, not a full week's time, there had been 2 more incidents that shows and tells and continuously paints a clear and concise picture of the times that we're in. No longer can we play fools to ourselves. No longer can we play ignorant to the circumstances and the situation, or try to cover our eyes to say that we don't see the ever clear and ever pervading picture that is painted for us. Now, this weekend, as a matter of fact, this past Saturday, in 1 day's time, there were 2 mass shootings. One in El Paso and another in Dayton, Ohio. Both of them were highly motivated by their hatred and their racism, and most importantly, in their eyes, the preservation of the white race. See, we are in a time where they know their rule is up. We're in a time where not old school white supremacists and old school white extremists, but the youth. These were young men. These were men in their 20s, when we're supposed to be in a post-racial state, when we're supposed to be in a situation where the sons and daughters of our slave masters will sit with the sons and daughters of the slaves at one table, and we will be in unison. That there would be no more hatred, no more animosity, no more disdain. That we wouldn't see race anymore, that we wouldn't see color. That all of those things were conversations of the past. That we had superseded the hate that this country was built on, and every European country was sustained on. No, brother and sister, that isn't the reality, nor will it ever be the reality. See, those who tried to say that that was the case, and those who tried to tell their children and sell the world of black people that we are in a post-racial state, were not just liars, but were totally complicit in the murder and the devastating effects of these killers, not just this past Wednesday, but everybody who participates and benefits from the system of white supremacy. Well, you say that's harsh language. That's something that shouldn't be articulated. You're really being very disrespectful, and you're painting a broad picture. That's not everybody. No, sister and brother. That's not everybody. That's why I distinctively said those who lied to the next generation and said this was the reality. Those who lied to the next generation and said, don't worry about those things. Those who lied to the next generation said you can love whoever you want to love. You can do whatever you want to do. You can be whatever you want to be, which was false, because yes, you can do what you want. You can be who you want, but you cannot do those things in the system of white supremacy, which we currently live, which currently governs this planet. No, you can't love who you want to love, because if you think you're going to love other than self, you're going to find, brother and sister, at once that reality does not exist. You're going to find in the first situation where they're able to choose between themselves and you, they're going to choose themselves. And what I mean by themselves, not just their personal body or that personal individual, but their family members, their race, their society, and everything that has been instituted to protect their white privilege. See, white people stay on code when it comes to that, especially when it's against you and I. Well, you're saying, well, the Garlic Festival was those white men white extremists killing other white people. Yes, but he had a specific aim in the white men and women that he killed. Those who were complicit in promoting this post-racial state. Though we know that white people, even though they may articulate those similar things, they're not doing it from a position of giving up their privilege or the benefits that they have from being white. They do it from a standpoint because they think they want to be able to have sexual access to black people. They want to have the ability to perform deviant acts with black people, to create debauchery with black people, to live in a state of decadence with black people. If they so choose to slum it whenever they want to self-loathe, they decide to do those things. But it's not from a situation where they intend on being a help and assist to uplifting not just a particular black individual to their benefit, but the black people as a whole. That's been non-existent since the white man and woman have been brought into existence. So when that white man at the Garlic Festival killing other white people, it's because those he felt did not take this race war serious. Because those who wanted to party and play and have fun in a time of war did not understand the seriousness of what we're up against. So you're talking about a people who have openly admitted natural decline, meaning they do not have the ability to reproduce at a level that will sustain their race. And because that is a reality, they have the same position any creature with his back against the wall facing extinction would do. I'm going to take as many with me as I possibly can. So that's why he did that. And then you said, well, the El Paso shooting was a circumstance, a situation where he killed Mexicans. Yes, that is correct as well. But you have to understand that he's trying to commit to the purity of the white race. And a lot of these so-called Mexicans have an affinity to European culture. That's why they say I'm a Spaniard or I'm Spanish, meaning I connect to the European country of Spain. That's all that means. And we know the descendants there are white Caucasians. Though it was a time where black people run and ruled that land, that's not what they're talking about they're connecting to. That's not what they represent. They're representing the white rule of Spain and the conquistadors and those who went across this planet, especially Africa, especially South America, Central America, and parts of Southern North America with the ideas of conquest, who were actively and continuously not just participants, but one of the forerunners in the transatlantic slave trade. That's who they connect to. And then it's so confusing because those who may have more black than they realize or more black than they're willing to accept still try to relinquish that black identity by saying, I'm Mexican, or I'm Colombian, or Puerto Rico. Yes, you're from Puerto Rico and you may be Puerto Rican, but that's a national identity, not a racial one. And if you go to Colombia or Venezuela, anywhere in Mexico, Puerto Rico, Cuba, you're going to see all of the dark-skinned people in those lands get treated just like any other dark people in these lands get treated. They had such a devastating effect on our people that even in lands that are all black, the blackest people get treated the worst. That's why you got people in West Africa using whitening creams to try to lighten their skin. This is what we're up against, brother and sister. Now, last week, I read The Fall of America by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And the chapter which I read from was chapter 5, Under the Shadow of Death. And I'm going to read this again because I want to reiterate this point because this point is so important. And we must be driven in to the psyche of our people, to the subconscious of the people, to the consciousness of our people. that is at the back of their mind and the front of their mind, on both of the sides of the brain. Why? Because if you do not understand white supremacy, brother and sister, if you're not able to articulately and accurately identify the devil, to be able to put him in his proper context, to be able to put him in a suit, and so teaches the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. Put him in clothes, put him in skin of men and women, then you're not going to be able to determine anything or have control over any aspect of your life, because you're not going to be able to identify with any true accuracy who's there to be a deterrent in your life, who's there to bring death and devastation to your life, who's there to ultimately be the one who will not just uproot you, but try to permanently wipe you from the planet. That's why I said we're living, as the most honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us, under the shadow of death. But you're saying, well, they're not going to be able to kill every black man on the planet. Well, that's their aim. And no, you're right. They probably cannot. But the thing is to kill the idea and the knowledge of the black man. To kill and to remove the knowledge of the true and living God, who the most honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches came in the person of Master Fard Muhammad, to whom righteous and holy praise is forever due. Why is that important? So, allow me to read. Again, we, the black lost found of our people here in America, live under the shadow of death by way of cowardly enemies. Cowardly enemies. Now I want to stop right there, because the El Paso killer left a manifesto, and in his manifesto he covered a couple of points, but one of the points that he covered was a message to those who would be planning similar attacks, those who have the same aspirations to be white extremist race soldiers and so-called warriors for the great and noble white idea in their minds of preserving their race, which is just the characteristics of the devil. And that's what white supremacy is. It rationalizes the irrational. It tries to substantiate that which cannot be substantiated. Now listen to what he says. Addressing those who may decide to carry out similar acts. So he advises against attacking heavily guarded areas in a way would serve to fulfill a super soldier going to Call of Duty video game. Those fantasies that they try to live. And so when you hear, and I just want to make a quick note on this real quick, because this is an important point. When you hear the false narrative going out by the white supremacist media, which is both CNN and Fox and everyone in between, outside of the independent black journalistic approaches like Crow and Muhammad and Friends and Muhammad TV, Crow TV, and many others, Final Call, different things like that, what you're listening to right now, Know Thyself Radio, you are being misled. Because one of the things that they try to bring up in this conversation when we see the murder and mayhem being enacted by these white supremacists, these white extremists, is that we need more stringent gun laws. We need gun control. One, it's a false narrative because we know the root of the Constitution of America, which they only honor amongst themselves because you were not even considered when the document was written. And then you learn later in the 1800s, 1857 to be exact, by Justice Taney, that there is not a rule or right or anything that a black man has that a white man is bound to respect. And we know, even with the 13th Amendment, that slavery would be abolished unless convicted of a crime. And we know the greatest crime in America and throughout the Western world is having black skin. So being black by nature in their system makes you a criminal means that you subsequently are a slave. So with that understanding, outside of that, the fundamental law that they enacted was the right to bear arms, meaning that they have the ability to mobilize and also to create a military whenever they feel that the government is unjust or anybody in their way needs to be removed. They militarize everything. So what am I saying? That's a conversation that never would be had. But the culture or the gun culture and the prevailing gun culture and the lust to kill is not from guns being available. It's from every aspect of the society which glorifies murder, glorifies killing aimlessly, glorifies those having a less affinity to life, those having lives that are less meaningful than others. Whenever you watch a so-called superhero movie, you always see the henchmen, and the henchmen get killed, murdered, maimed, and there's no regard, and you see yourself cheering. You see yourself applauding the hero from being able to take masses of so-called bad people out, not realizing that those bad people may not be bad, may just be men taking orders, just like your soldiers are taking orders, may just be in the wrong place at the wrong time. That's irrelevant, because long as the perception has been put that these men are bad, that these women are bad, their life at that point subsequently has no meaning. That means if you kill them, it doesn't matter. Matter of fact, you are glorified in that regard. So that's why they create the James Bond movies, the Westerns, which were the first ones. You see the superhero movies of today, the Marvel and so forth and so on. The John Wicks, where you don't even have to be a so-called superhero. You can be an anti-hero, you can be an assassin, but long as you have a connection to the targeted demographic, you will be rooted for. You will be considered a good guy, and we will want you to win no matter how many people you have to kill and take out. So that has been the picture that has been ingrained in the white man. He sees it as his job and responsibility. In his eyes, he is a white hero doing the most noble of things, removing all of the problem people of this civilization to preserve this white identity. He sees it as a noble endeavor. See, you're living under the shadow of death. So what am I saying? I'm saying no matter how you try to falsely narratize this situation, unless you're able to see it from the most purest perspective, which was given to us by the messenger, you're always going to be misled. And in being misled, you're going to be led step by step to hell. Physically, mentally, and spiritually. So, there's nothing going to happen with the guns. The culture of white supremacy is entrenched on not just gun and the ability to bear arms and the ability to have weaponry, but the ability to kill in a just cause. See, when they kill innocent people, they call it collateral damage. They don't call it murder or mayhem. They don't call it a terrorist attack. They call it collateral damage. So when they do things that they would call these horrific terrorist attacks, it's called collateral damage. It's just a byproduct of war. But we're justified in our intent because they control the narrative. At least they try to. At least they have. But that's why it's so important in this day and time that we switch the conversation onto what's really going on. What's really happening. So you got to understand what is he saying and what's being said. Now, I was reading in connection to what he wrote in his manifesto versus what the messenger of God was telling us and warning us about already. Now he says, but rather attack low security targets. There's nothing wrong with reaching for low-hanging fruit, he says. Why is that important? Because he wasn't going to go to a situation where he was going to have to fight you man to man. He wasn't going to go to an environment where he felt he couldn't outnumber those with relative ease, which he was trying to decimate. Now, what else that sounds like? Dylan Roof, another white supremacist kid who has been not radicalized, but normalized by which his nature has created him to be. See, you got to hear these words now. These people got radicalized. That's why they try to paint the lone wolf. The lone wolf. But where'd he go? He went to a church with elderly, unassuming, those who wouldn't be on guard, those who were already trained and programmed by their slave masters to be willing and accepting of anything outside of themselves. They would have gave a black man and woman fresh out of jail, or even if he had a suit, more trouble than they gave that white boy. Because just his presence alone meant that they must have been doing something good. See, this is the sick thought pattern that we have. Nobody questioned, nobody is able to put things in its proper context, in the sense that you're not paranoid, but you are prepared for whatever happens. The messenger of God didn't have you be searched when you came into the mosque because he was paranoid. He was prepared because he knew what and who he was dealing with. Even you, who had been totally inundated by the lies and deception of this world, had to be checked because you are not your natural self. So if you're leaning on the understanding of your slave master, which we've known has an open and outright approach to his decimation of us, you would only do what he has done and replicate that same mentality. But as I continue, low-hanging fruit, even when police officers, who do they go to first? Women and children. Tamir Rice. So you couldn't kill none of these mass shooters. When they kill a mass shooter, it has to be a circumstance that's just so extraneous and outright devastating. That's their only option. And even with that, it's to cover up their tracks. But with a child playing in the park, he's shot dead. With a woman who was arguing why she was pulled over, she's found hung in her cell. See, we haven't even gotten to the point that we're able to look at these things rationally. It's by design. Police officers who are supposed to be, at least in the narrative that they talk, to provide and protect, were first originated as slave catchers. Remember I said earlier, you are still a slave if you are convicted of a crime. And what did I say? What kind of crime you will be convicted of? Just having black skin. That is the crime for you and I. So they're black Negro catchers. That's the job of a police officer, even if he is black. And I'm not saying that that is the circumstance and case for each and every one. No, we have good ones. We have ones who have a clean agenda, but you can only be so clean inside of a toilet. And I know that's harsh language, but we need harsh language for the harsh times that we're facing, because if you don't get it as it is in the raw, you would think that things are not as bad as they seem, that you have more time. And that's not the case. The time is now to change. Now, back to the messenger of God. And he goes to say, the cowardly enemies will not fight you as brave men will fight you if they think that you would fight back. Like I said, even with the situation in Dayton, he went and killed 6 black people, but he knew not to go to no all-black nightclub or bar or a place where so-called gangsters or thugs, but men who stay prepared and are war ready, even if it's from a street mentality. He knew not to go there because he wouldn't be victorious in his aim. He'd been stopped at the door. He knew, I could go to a place where white people are that black people attend, with the mind and perception of trying to just assimilate into white society, meaning they would be docile and weak. He had did his due diligence. We don't do that. Now, even with the El Paso killer, and he went to kill Mexicans in the border, talking about the invasion. I'll talk more about that later. But his original intent was to kill black people. His hate and disdain was against black people. But after reading another white man's manifesto called The Great Invasion that talks about the Mexicans coming in and taking over, it was due to that inspired him to go to El Paso, but also at a place that he knew South targets, a Walmart, where mostly elderly and women go to shop. Now, listen to what he says. And I read this last week and I'm going to read it again because it needs to be reiterated. They will steal on you when you least expect an attack from them. We're living in the shadows of death. Now, why is that important? Because you can't be in a situation where you are unprepared or something is unexpected. Let me rephrase that. You can't be unprepared and use the excuse of something being unexpected. Now, all across the news media, this was so unexpected. But it wasn't. We were just unprepared. One, because this has been happening, it seems, every week, at least every 7 to 8 days. I think it was a poll taken that said we average a white supremacist shooting massacre every 9 days this year. What it means, that the intensity of this evil devil has been rising as he sees his end more inevitable. More inevitable. Just like a bee at the end of life is going to sting something because he knows it's going to die soon anyway. Same thing with a mosquito, so forth and so on. And it's not about for them preserving their life more than putting in fear and trying to, like I said earlier, to remove as many as possible as they can. Their aim wasn't to live after this, but it was to be a martyr in the sense of what they feel the most noble idea, which is the preservation of the white race. So, brother and sister, you cannot use the excuse of being in a situation that you did not expect. Not when every single day they are showing and telling us who and what they are and what they tend to do. Say, well, Trump's a racist. You didn't know that? Oh, so when he was redlining black people and not allowing them to rent any of his apartments, that wasn't racist, based solely on race. We took out a whole op-ed in the New York Times, and one of the most vocal components of giving those innocent black men in the the Central Park 5, the death penalty. That wasn't racism. He didn't have hard evidence. He went off the simple fact that they were young black men and that there was a white woman dead. And then after so, you didn't hear nothing else about it. He didn't make no apologies. He didn't raise no money to try to help give some type of, and money doesn't do it. I want you to make this clear, but I'm just using this as an example of somebody who supposedly have an abundance of money and wealth that he could have gave a good gesture of will. But he did not do so. Why? Because he doesn't care. But that's who he was. But we seen black so-called politicians be up under him. Rappers and entertainers be up under him. And so, because he was the white man in the club spending money on hookers and prostitutes and drugs, we thought that was good enough. Because he was able to do these decadent acts to participate in debauchery and filth, that was good enough for me and you. See how low we have failed? But now that he's in the office and now he's affecting other people outside of just black people, now his racism is a problem. Oh no, brother and sister. Racism ain't a problem for me and you, because those who have the ability to see and know and to see things for what they are and not what we want them to be already knew the nature of Donald Trump and everybody else like Donald Trump. Donald Trump is an outlier. Donald Trump is an anomaly. Donald Trump is the rule, not the exception. And he represents the multitudes of not just rich white men, but white people in general. His distinction is that he has the presidential chair at the particular moment, and he's a little more vocal and bold and brazen with his approach to racism, because some other people like to be a little more covert, a little more inward and discreet with their approach, because they have adopted the benign and neglect approach to black people and their racism. That's the only distinction, brother and sister. What am I saying? Donald Trump was elected directly after 2 terms of Barack Obama to represent the sentiments of the whole United States. He represented the whole of the United States, showing us that this is not a post-racial state. Now, for those who have any affinity to international news and are keeping up to what's going on overseas, for example, the new Prime Minister of England, Boris Johnson. Now, his whole shtick is playing the buffoon, or one who does not really know what's going on, always to seem confused and all over the place, wears his hair wild on purpose, making outlandish remarks on purpose, being able to get people to somehow lower their guards on a lot of his insidious acts that he has continuously done, and a lot of the laws that he are trying to enact, and the policies that he has enacted in the past, and the things that he's done in the name of white supremacy, by having people laugh, disarming people with the ability to use an approach that has always worked in white supremacy society, to pretend not to know when you really know, or to use the approach of not knowing, that which goes both ways. Maybe he doesn't know and we give him a pass, or if he does know and he act like he doesn't know, for some reason that seems kind of humble. And once again, both of those ploys, or both of those perspectives that you take with that ploy, still get you away from the attention of what's really happening and what's really taking place. Now, you can be taken aback if you decide to, brother and sister, and say, oh, well, I'm being a little bit too critical or analytical with the situation or the subject matter, but you can never be too meticulous when you're dissecting this white supremacy society, because he has learned how to weaponize every part of this society, every aspect. And I'm using him as an example because that is the same thing that Donald Trump has done. When he first ran for office, and I'm not making this about Donald Trump, but I'm using how all this ties in, brother and sister, if you would only be patient with me. When he was first elected, or running for office, before he was elected, we all use the same rhetoric. Oh no, we want to elect Donald Trump, host of The Apprentice, the guy who owns the hotels with the bad hairdo. No. Oh, he said too many outlandish things. Oh no, he said he'd grab a woman's by the. Oh no. He went too far. He's not gonna get elected. Hillary. Bernie, this person, that person. And what did he continue to do? Go all around the country, galvanizing the support of white supremacists. And as we see in the case of all of these mass shootings, white extremists. Now, of course, this has been happening before Donald Trump. Of course, these are the feelings and the sentiments of the people before Donald Trump, but Donald Trump allowed it to be in your face. He allowed for all of those who were on the cusp of doing certain things to finally have the inspiration and the motivation to do so. Because in their eyes, he's the white supremacist champion. If we got a man like that in office who talks so bold like that, oh man, we can do anything now. Even when David Duke, the former Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan, was elected into office, political office, he tapered down his rhetoric a little bit. He was a little more precise with his words. Donald Trump is out in the open with it. Meaning what? Now you have an emboldened group of extremists who are ready to enact their white supremacist, murderous agendas. Oh, we're not living in a dangerous time. We're living in the most dangerous. Because when you are unprepared, the result is death. Now, we'll go back to the messenger of God. And it says, this is from chapter 9. The dead are rising. They seek their own. That's the chapter, but this is on page 40. Now listen to this. By Allah God pulling the cover off the white race, this makes it possible for us, the black people who were dead to the knowledge of the truth, to see the natural characteristics of this deadly white enemy of the black man. The natural characteristics of this deadly white enemy of the black man. Why did he say deadly? Because and the natural characteristics of this white man is deadly. I spoke last week about how Western civilization is so quoted by Carl Quigley in his book, Tragedy and Hope. Its greatest technology is the ability to kill. I read before in other books talking about when Christopher Columbus, a white man, landed on the shores of North America. First thing he sought fit to do to the original people of that land, the indigenous people of that land, was to kill, murder, and maim, to enslave. So what are we talking about? We're talking about the nature of this devil is to do so. Even white women know firsthand about the abuse, physically, socially, spiritually, mentally, of the white man. Before he could even get to Africa to enslave us, the white woman was enslaved. Look at the history. But because it's her nature too, she sees that as a position to take advantage. Now she can play the victim, but she know that she's still team white supremacy. So everything that the black man has done to the black woman this day and time is a learned behavior from his slave master. It's a learned behavior from being in the pits of this devil society and trying to emulate, to acclimate into his civilization, thinking under the false pretenses that he's becoming more civilized, though he is leaving his civility far, far, far behind. We are in a stage right now, like I said, that it's only a matter of time where every single person will be made to show their true character. We are in the manifestation of defects, so teaches the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. That means everything will be made clear and brought to the light, so you cannot hide behind the false auspices of not knowing anymore. That's why it has been revealed by Almighty God Allah through these mass murders. Who is at the helm of it every single time? A white person. And what are they leaving every single time? Some type of identification that they have not just a connection, but have totally committed themselves to the ideology of white supremacy. Do you understand what the word synchronization is? To have syncrecy, to be succinct in something. Do you know what that means? Now listen to the definition of synchronicity. Coincidence in time, contemporaneous, simultaneous. Meaning, if something is simultaneous, it's living or occurring during the same period of time. But that's not a coincidence. Synchronicity is outside of coincidence. That means that those things are directly connected. They are aligned. What am I saying? The synchronicity of the events that have been happening are not a product of coincidence. These mass shootings in abundance are not a product of coincidence or happenstance. It is synchronized in the sense that they have all been motivated, perpetuated, and promoted by the same root cause, which is the education of these white young men and women to participate in the system of white supremacy, to perpetuate the system of white supremacy, and to protect the system of white supremacy. See, you looking at these things as isolated events, and that's why they keep trying to say that it's a lone wolf, that it's an individual who just went radical. And I keep saying that, but I have to keep reiterating that there's no such thing as a lone wolf in white supremacy. That's why a white cop can kill an unarmed black man and get off, because of synchronicity, because of the connectivity of it all. He knows he's going to go to a white judge and a white jury who's going to not just sympathize, but to be on code with him to make sure that what he has done was in benefit of the white race. And he will be protected as such. The only time when white people don't get protected by other white people is when, one, they get off code, or it's against another white person. And then it's whoever has the highest rank. But against you and I, oh no, synchronicity. Code, structure. That's what we're talking about. Now listen to how, and I'm gonna break this definition down because I think it's important as well. The psychoanalysis of synchronicity. The simultaneous occurrence of casually unrelated events, and the belief that these so-called simultaneous events has meaning beyond mere coincidence. But what did I just say? There is no such thing as coincidence in a system of white supremacy. There is no such thing as happenstance in a system of white supremacy. They're acted out agendas, programming, procedures that were put in place to produce a certain outcome. That's why you control the social construct of a people. You control the individual. That's why they let you think that you're thinking your own thoughts, because they control your perception. So it doesn't matter if you're a so-called free thinker, your thoughts are only going to be constructed upon your perception of what to think. So they've gotten to the root of the most deceptive way to get to the people by changing your perception, changing the perception of God from you, from the original black man, to a white blue-eyed Jesus. They changed the perception of the devil from him to a person with horns, red skin, and a tail with a pitchfork. They changed the perception of the masters of the universe from you to themselves. And so to the messenger of God. Let me finish this paragraph. Now we can shun our enemy like we do a rattlesnake. When we see the rattlesnake or hear his rattle sing, we begin to try and seek cover from the rattlesnake. If we are not able to kill, for we know his deadly sting. But the snake, the white race, has overtaken us, and he has bitten us so many times that we have become so poisoned from his poison getting into our blood, from his sting, that it has taken God now to come prevent the snake from continuing to sting us. And Allah God has the cure for us being bitten by the snake. He will separate both of us from being involved with each other, so that the snake's poisonous sting will not affect us. You cannot have black power nor implement black power or freedom if you are being governed by white rule. You cannot truly serve a black god, an ideology, if you are governed and live in a white society. Separation must come. What you saying? Well, we separated before, and all of the white man has done before. It was so-called treaties and separation with the natives of this land, the indigenous of this land, and so forth and so on. And we see we were separate in Africa, and he was in Europe, and he came, and of course, we know the white man's not going to honor true separation if he's not directly benefiting from it. because he know left to his own vice, he's going to wither away. But that's why I said earlier that you build up defense. Even in the mosque, you had to be checked. FOI, it was a security system. It was understanding of discipline and protection. That has to be taken into consideration as well. Not just in consideration, but implemented as once. You don't build a temple, a mosque, a home if you don't know how to protect it. Same thing with a nation. That's why with the messenger of God, all angles were covered. I want us to look again, and I want to read more and go more into this, but I think we got the point. As you look at these examples just this past week, 3 in a number of 7 days, and I'm sure there's more to come, and it's been many more in the past, that this is not a circumstance that we can continue to overlook nor ignore. But we must be proactive in our quest and desire for freedom by doing what it takes to implement and enact that freedom. And that's first by being aware of what and who are in opposition and will oppose that freedom, who are actively working to destroy and to continue to keep us from being free. And then when you have that, now subsequently the next step is to do what it takes to never let those things be a reality again. Brother and sister, we have to get to the point where we get past emotionalism, that we get past all the lies and deceptions that have been implemented into our lives, into our minds, into our hearts, into our bodies. We remove them, and then we replace it with the truth. We replace it with the knowledge of the living God. We work vehemently, tirelessly in enacting a nation of our own that we control. And we build more and more and more. And we don't worry about not being a part of a society. We don't worry about not being included in whatever he has going on with his world. Inclusivity should only be acquired amongst one another, the original man and woman. Inclusivity should only be acquired, only should be sought after, only should be desired by one another, the original black man and woman. Please take heed to the words that I am telling you, because they have been inspired, motivated, and taught to me by the messenger of God. And so in these times that we see the ever abundant onslaught and outright attack from our open enemy, we have to get to the point where enough is enough, that we're not desensitized to the point where it doesn't affect us anymore. You wait till it hits home and then you want to do something about it, but by then it is too late. It's already hit home. You're already affected. Just because your brother and sister is not laying in a grave at this particular point, that don't mean it hasn't hit home. Because I assure you, more than likely, their mind, their spirit, their soul is mentally in the grave. Their spirit is mentally in the grave. The knowledge that they say they have acquired only brings them further to not just a physical grave, but also a mental grave. Even if they have acquired and accrued some type of resources, they do it in a manner where it does not benefit self, and they only put it back into the system that is oppressing and controlling and enslaving them. I'm saying another thought has to be created, because another perception has to be implemented into how we do the things that we do in this day and time. And I say, as I begin to wrap up, the messenger of God has came, and he was personally taught by God in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, to whom righteous and holy praise is forever due. That great God, Master Farad Muhammad. So ye not need to look for another, that other has came. And he has put in enough of us just the right amount of knowledge that we want to go out and continue his great work in his name, in his honor. So I thank you for listening. And please, my brothers and sisters, be aware of your surroundings. Do not go out unless it is necessary. Do not do things unless it has an advantageous benefit for your survival and your ability to thrive. Do things that are only tied in to righteousness. Let that be your safeguard. Do not be caught up in having fun in a way the world has taught us that we should be having fun. Do not get caught up in trying to swirl and be a part of the things that have no benefit. It is fun to serve God and to do right, to be a free, independent people. But you got to start. And then you will see the ability to make it a joyful endeavor. So I thank you for listening. As I leave you in the words of peace and paradise. Assalamu alaikum.